This season, Jim and I set out to find the best trout destination we could. For us, best meant pristine surroundings, limitless water, and wild trout that would take a well-placed fly. We did our research, and this is where we ended up. This is Fly Fusion Television.
This week we're fishing the Elk River, and Derek and I have as our guests Jeff Wagner and Al Ritt, who write for Fly Fusion magazine. And we're going to have some good cutthroat fishing, we hope. And we're also going to talk a little bit about why people fly fish. And it'll be really interesting to see the different reasons why 4 different people like to fly fish so much.
We have this dream team, essentially, of anglers where, I'm fishing with kind of this trout expert in Jim, fishing with Al Ritt, who's such a well-respected fly tyer and an excellent angler as well. And then I get to fish with Jeff Wagner as well, who's one of the premier casters in North America. So this day is something that I'm really looking forward to, but secretly, I would love to outfish all of them.
I'm Al Ritt. I'm the fly tying editor for Fly Fusion magazine. I've been with the magazine for a couple years now and find it really enjoyable. I'm from Colorado. I've been tying flies for about 30 years.
I am Jeff Wagner, fly casting field editor for Fly Fusion magazine. Well, hopefully we're going to catch some fish on the Elk River, throw some dry flies, I'm hoping. Hopefully we see some good weather and some good hatches, but maybe to talk a little bit about fly fishing and why we do it.
I fished with Al a few years ago, and he's a great caster. He knows, his knowledge of bugs is, I would say, second to none. But I don't know who the nun is, so.
Nuns don't fish much anyway.
They don't normally fish, no. But you know what? Maybe that's just stereotyping. Maybe it's stereotyping, and we shouldn't go there. Possibly they could. I've never seen a nun in waders.
Well, you wouldn't want it to become their habit. Sorry.
Whoa.
So I'm from Sidney, Nebraska, not often thought of for fly fishing. Do a lot of warm water fishing, a lot of carp, a lot of bass, but also a lot of spring creeks, and then a lot of high mountain streams and lakes in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Montana.
Even as a kid, when I was 10 or 11 years old, I just begged my parents for a fly tying kit. And my dad didn't fly fish much. Nobody that I knew fly fished much, but I was just enthralled with fishing flies. At the time, I remember taking wire bread tie wrappers and making my own hooks and taking pipe cleaners and making up little materials on my own and just making fake flies out of that.
With all of us fishing together, one thing that'll be fascinating for me today is really just seeing why it is that we do what we do, right? Why is it that we enjoy getting out on a river in a boat with a stick in our hands, casting flies? Why is that? And so I'm excited to hear from you and from Jeff and Al as to why you guys fly fish.
I think you're going to find just among the 4 of us that there's quite a few different reasons, and if there's a lot of reasons to do this, and they're not everybody does it for the same ones. And I think maybe that's one of the great things about the sport.
Explore the majestic Canadian Rocky Mountains, where clear freestone rivers and pristine mountain lakes are home to wild, pure-strained west slope cutthroat trout and impressive monster bull trout. Let our local Fernie guides lead you, challenge you, and inspire you in one of the best fly fishing destinations in North America. Fernie, British Columbia.
I think I can answer the why question. First of all, I don't think fly fishing is a spiritual endeavor, as it is, apparently it is for some people. For me, the places where fly fishing occurs can have strong spiritual connections, but the fishing itself is not. For me, fly fishing can be intriguing and engrossing and fascinating and exciting, and mostly it's just a lot of fun.
You have all these expectations going into the day, and the first part of the day today, I was really concerned because we launched the drift boats. We're set up in the first hole. Al takes a cast. He's into a fish right away. And then I look at my rod, and for some reason I had missed a guide. It was the first guide that I had missed, and so I was like, oh shoot! So I had to take all the line out and set the line through the guides again. And as I'm doing that, I get this tangle, and to make matters worse, Jim's hooking into fish, and Al's bringing fish up. I hope that this doesn't set the stage for the day, because you have those days when you're out where sometimes everything just goes wrong, and it usually starts right at the beginning of the day. And I thought, shoot, this is going to be one of those days. I get everything set back up. I don't bring anything up in that hole, but as we're floating down, the guide does it's the 100% classic trout rise situation. He says, cast that dry that I put on for you. He said, cast that kind of about, a foot from the bank, a foot from that log, and just let it drift nicely through it. Little men, let it drift nicely through it. So I did that. Fish comes up, boom, into the first fish of the day, and so as I'm bringing it in, I'm thinking, oh good, it's not going to be one of those days, where the tangles are happening. It's not going to be one of those days, and after, honestly, probably 5 seconds after I thought that, the drift boat is still moving, and I see this log in the water, and I think, oh, I sure hope that my line doesn't get wrapped around that as I'm fighting this fish. And sure enough, yeah, we might have to, oh shoot, oh no, he went upstream into that stump. That's exactly what happens. And the boat's still drifting, and I'm on this log, and my fish is still on the line, but somehow I kind of jiggled it a bit, and the line comes off the log, and I was able to land the fish. That was a good one. Good call. Good call. Nice job, Steve. Always a good one. It's a nice size. He's a good thick fish, eh? Look at him. That was a good one. It had the added bonus of hooking up onto a log under the water too.
Started out fishing dries, and right off the bat we had a couple of good fish. Derek and Al both hooked up, and from that point on things changed a little bit, and we had some kind of tough fishing.
Jeff, look at the grassy bank. What? Right down there, hit that. No, that'll do it. What a spot.
Come on.
We fished a lot of different patterns. We started out with dry flies and then went on to fishing some streamers. We fished nymphs. Man, we fished just about everything. We had a lot of fish on, a lot of good takes, but we had a lot of fish that we lost at distance, long distance releases or whatever you want to call them.
Our day in the Elk was in many ways typical of what you find on, just a day fishing. It started out pretty good. We caught a couple of fish right away, and then kind of a nasty wind came up that made the casting difficult. And then we started hooking some fish and losing some fish. That was mostly what seemed to be happening, and the experience was pretty similar for everybody. They were finding some fish, getting them to come up to our dry flies, but they were just taking them with not with full conviction.
We caught a few fish, but they weren't kind of the classic larger Elk River fish.
As the day went on, the fishing got better, especially as we got in toward the evening. Fishing a stretch up above, a lot of blue wings coming off, starting to pick up a few fish, and pulled out a few of the small ones before we got a little bigger cutties, so very nice.
There we go.
Got him?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm Jim McLennan, and I write the Watermarks column in each issue of Fly Fusion magazine. I've also written a book called Watermarks, which is a collection of my best magazine pieces over the last 30 years. In it, there's sections on the where, the how, and my favorite, the why of fly fishing. Trout Streams of Alberta is a book about the great fly fishing in my home province. You can purchase either book online by going to troutstreamsofalberta.com or by calling 1-888-435-9624.
So what do you
There we go.
Got him?
Yeah.
Nice.
I often think of seasons, right? So if spring is like the first 20 years of your life and summer is the next 20, I'm kind of like just nearing the end of summer, I guess you could say. And I don't know if summer is the best time to answer the why question. I think to say directly, I don't know if I could answer it right now. Not a bad fish.
Great fish.
Oh, did you see that fly pop as soon as he got in? I think that I'll be able to answer the why question more when I hit the late autumn of my life. If I'm granted that many years, that's more of a natural time for that type of reflection. And I think that because I'll have so much life experience by that time, I'll be able to have a better answer for that question. And it's funny because when we're kids, when we're in our teens and when we're out fly fishing, I can't even remember a time where I was ever like, why do I do this? Why am I, why do I go out? It was just kind of, you're just so involved in the moment, right? Like you're so involved in that.
You might wonder what the value is in exploring the why question about why we fly fish. And I suppose that varies from person to person. Some people probably think there's not much value in it at all because they probably don't approach anything in life that way. But some of us, and I guess I'm one of them, do think about stuff like that. Why do we do this? I know I've I have often wondered, and with no, come up with no answer, why do we have to catch a fish? We know he's there. Why do we have to catch him? And I don't really know why that is, except there's something, I don't know, it comes from somewhere inside, and maybe from a long time ago, that makes us want to catch the fish.
I can tell you things I enjoy about fly fishing. But I cannot tell you what it is about those things that makes me enjoy them. I have a great respect for people that understand their own mind that well. I just know when I enjoy something, I don't always understand why I enjoy it.
For me, normally the why question is really about connections. It's connecting with our Creator, that gave us the outdoors. I spend a lot of time on the water with my wife and my girls.
Have I seen days like this? No, I generally catch about 70 or 80 every time I go out. I'm about... There he is, there he is. Got him. And I gotta try and get him away from the logs.
Oh yeah.
Seems like I can get him past there. Yeah. And that's a real fish. It's a real fish.
Yeah, he's a good one. Oh, good fish.
Oh, that's
yeah.
nice one. I'm gonna run out of
Good fish. That I mean, there's been a lot of work, a lot of casts to get that fish today, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, we've caught a few, but that one's been a little bigger than the rest of them.
Yeah, and it was in one of those typical elk places by the log.
Yeah, it was very much
right tight to the log.
Very much a classic dry fly fish there.
Yeah.
Good work, Jim.
Thank you. That was it all was because the person in this seat gets the first shot at the fish.
Well, I'm glad that you were up there to.
With that in
take
mind, would you
one.
like to trade seats?
No, I want you to stay. I want you to stay in that seat. Yeah.
You're gonna call this up later somehow, aren't you?
You know what? I will. If I don't catch a fish like that today, then at least I'll have an excuse.
Oh.
So.
One of the reasons I like to fly fish so much is because it never changes, but it's always different. And I know that sounds a little contradictory, but what I mean is, when I say it never changes, is that fly fishing, every time I do it, requires all of my attention and thereby takes my mind away from everything else. And you can't fly fish and think about something else. You can't fly fish and worry about something. And I think that's maybe where the great value is for me. It gets all my attention on something that really isn't all that important. And when I say it's always different, that's because someone once said it's impossible to step into the same river twice. And that's because the water we fish, as well as the fish, are changing minute by minute, hour by hour. And the conditions that we fish in, and the weather, and the fish's behavior, and the behavior of their food changes all the time. So one day will never, ever be just like another day.
haven't been very hungry today. They've been just barely taking the fly, like just barely touching it. You can see why. I mean, their bellies are just, I mean, right at the base of that, his belly is just full.
Jeff was casting to some fish, and I'd kind of mentally called an end to my day a little bit. I was kind of thinking I was just going to watch Jeff fish for a little bit because we were close to the pullout. And just as we were pulling the anchor up to head down to the pullout, I saw one nice fish come up, and it was in the perfect spot for me to cast. So our guide, Kim, dropped the anchor back down, and I made a couple quick casts to it, and on about the second or third drift, I saw this fish come up and just slowly ate the fly and went back down. And I set the hook correctly, and we landed that fish, and it was maybe the most beautiful cutthroat I've ever seen, certainly the most beautiful I've ever touched. It was just an awesome fish, and then I knew I was done. I mean, that when everything comes together like that, you kind of know why you're there.
I didn't see the big fish that Al caught, but I'm sure it was a beautiful fish, and it must have been pretty special because I did note the big smile that was on Al's face for, about 3 hours after that.